All right, what is going on, guys? Just give me a second here. I'm trying to do all of this pretty quickly. Man, it's just been a heck of a week. Hold on one second. I am setting some stuff up. Just got home from work, and I wanted to kind of talk about these two issues. I did want to make some separate videos, and I just haven't had the time. Plus, I'm going to be going live tonight on another channel at 8 p.m. And it is Debate Talk for You. That is debate talk for you. So I just wanted to kind of have a quick discussion. I know that some of you guys probably haven't got on yet, and you're not, a lot of you probably didn't get any notifications or anything that I was getting ready to go live because I was trying to hurry up and get this done. But like I said, I just got home not too long ago. I just had a chance to get home, shower, and just kind of get all of this stuff set up. So it's been pretty crazy today. So we're going to be talking about a couple of issues, and I'm going to try to keep this as short and as simple as possible. Because at 8 p.m. I am going to be going live on the other channel. So I kind of want to try to kind of get some stuff off my chest, and especially while these topics are still pretty hot. So today we're going to be talking about, first of all, there's two subjects that we really got to talk about. The first one is about a couple of Christian pastors who were arrested. Hold on one second. I'm just trying to pull this stuff up. One guy so far, I think that he is in Florida. I'm just trying to pull up the article here. Hey, Timothy and Lady B, how are you guys doing? Okay, so here we go. All right, so I'm going to see if I can kind of share this. Let me see if I can go ahead and share this screen really quickly. There we go. Why does that look like that? There we go. Okay, so this particular pastor, Rodney Howard-Browne. Now, for some reason, I think that this guy, Mr. Rodney Howard-Browne, I don't really know much about him. But what I hear is that he's like a charismatic type guy, charismatic preacher. Let's go to the link here. Let me see. But he does have a church that's in Florida, right? Now, he was arrested because he did not want to. He basically held church service, right? So he decided to hold a church service, and he was arrested. Now, this is 20 hours ago. Okay, this is from the Daily Beast. I kind of don't want to do the Daily Beast. I want to see if there's any other. Here we go. Well, let's do the New York Times, because there's another article that I want to read from the New York Times later. So we're going to go ahead and just read what the New York Times has to say about this pastor who was arrested in Tampa Bay, Florida. Okay. Now listen to this. It says the sheriff of Hillsborough County said the Reverend Rodney Howard-Browne, a Pentecostal pastor, endangered the lives of his parishioners by holding services on Sunday. Okay, and this is him. It says, before the Reverend Rodney Howard-Browne, the pastor of a Pentecostal megachurch in Florida, held two church services on Sunday, each filled with hundreds of parishioners, lawyers from the sheriff's office, and local government pleaded with him to reconsider putting his congregation in danger of contracting the coronavirus. Okay. Says that the pastor ignored them, proceeding with the services at the river at Tampa Bay Church, and even providing bus transportations for members who need a ride. Okay. On Monday, Sheriff Chad Cronister of Hillsborough County said that he had obtained an arrest warrant for Mr. Howard Brown for intentionally and repeatedly defying emergency orders mandating that people maintain social distance and stay at home. Okay. Let me see. So I'm not going to try to read too much of this because I only got so much time. Let me see. He says, I like to remind the good pastor, Mark 12:31, which says there is no more important commandment than to love thy neighbor and to love thyself. Who said that? Was that Mr. Warren? I don't know who that is. Oh, Andrew Warren. He's the state attorney for Hillsborough County. So, he's trying to throw scripture at the pastor. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this guy in particular, let me go ahead and bring this back up. The reason why I want to talk about this guy in particular is because, and I wanted to talk about this subject, because first of all, we understand that we are in a time of a global pandemic. Now, I really don't care what people think right about now when it comes to this pandemic, and they think that it's some type of conspiracy. I got my thoughts about it. I got my, my conspiracies, if you want to say that. But here's the thing, and I noticed that there is kind of like being this trend right now where some of these pastors, they are trying to show that they're basically trying to push their limits. Sorry if you guys hear the dogs barking in the background. But anyway, there's a lot of these pastors that's trying to push their limits, their legal limits, and they're trying to call it, Christian persecution. Okay, now, first of all, this guy who we were just talking about, he was arrested. Okay, now I read in an article today, and I don't know if I have time to pull it. I'm probably not going to pull it up. But he has actually canceled the rest of his church services. Okay. So he did all of this, decided that, hey, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have service. And I think one article said that one of his defenses was that he provided hand sanitizer and he provided wipes, and he sanitized the whole place so that his congregants can come to church. And just a few things that I have to say about this is that, number one, this is why I don't really do the whole mega church thing. Now, I know that there are some people who do have big congregations, and I'm not anti-big congregation. To a certain degree, I'm not against mega churches. I just don't think that it's a good idea for someone to have a facility where you're stuffing, thousands of people into a building on any given Sunday, to listen to one person speak, or to listen just to a few people speak. And, these pastors and these deacons and stuff, they don't really know who you are. Basically, you're just someone that's just paying tithes and offerings. That's just my opinion. And one of the reasons why I really don't agree with these big megachurch settings is because, first of all, you have to understand mega churches are businesses. I mean, it is what it is. Anybody can try to debate on that, but at the end of the day, the whole mega church thing is a business. That's what it is. It's there to make money. That's why they build a facility so big, and that's why they try to put as many people in the building as they possibly can, because you build a big building, you got to fill it with people if you want to be able to continue to take care of that building. Okay. If you have a building that is sitting on 20 or 30 acres. First of all, if you're not a 501c3, I don't know how land taxes and stuff work with 501c3s. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm not pro 501c3, but I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But you got the land that you got to pay for that has to be maintained. You got water bill, you got light bill, maintenance. You have all of these things that go on, in any building, any facility. Now, what happens is that when you're faced with a crisis like this, and you have been ordered to close your doors, we all know if those people are not showing up at the church and giving their money, their tithes and offerings, every Sunday that you're not there or every day that that building is closed, you're losing money because those same expenses, you're still going to have to pay those expenses. Water bill, light bill, whatever. You still have to pay those things. So what's happening is that you're having some of these pastors who understand that. And I'm pretty sure their accountants are bringing it up to them and saying, look, if we stay closed for this amount of time, we're going to end up losing a lot of money. And if we lose this much money, we're probably going to have to close the church. So what they're trying to do is that they're trying to use this as an opportunity to scream and holler Christian persecution, which I do not agree with, because the churches are not the only people that's actually losing money in their business. Even my business, I have a handyman business, and I have barely gotten any calls, and this is like peak season for me. So around March, April is when things just start to ramp up for me, business wise. But right now it's been pretty slow for me because people are stuck inside. People don't want to come in contact with too many people from the outside. And then along with that, there's a lot of people who are not working, who are not making money, so they don't want to just spend money to get some things done if they can take that money and use that to survive, for the next few weeks or month, or however long they tell us that we must stay quarantined, or stay off the streets or stay out of work or whatever. You see what I'm saying? So when you're a pastor and you have this big establishment, decisions got to be made. Now, first of all, I don't know if he's a 501c3, but this is why I don't like 501c3s, because number one, with the 501c3, you have a list of rules that are established by the government, what you can and can't do, things of that nature. If you are preaching or if you are speaking something that the government does not agree with, then they can basically shut you down. I think I heard a few years ago where I don't know if it was a certain state or a certain city that wanted to look at the pastor's sermons in order to have them eligible for the 501c3 tax exempt status. But I do remember hearing something about it. I don't exactly remember what the details were, but I did remember reading an article about that, maybe about 5-6 years ago. So I'm like totally anti 501c3. I go to a church, and it is a home church where about 4 or 5 of us as families, we get together and we praise and we worship, and we alternate homes and things of that nature, and everything that supports us and other people who are a part of our fellowship, who may be out on mission trips, who may live in neighboring cities, things of that nature. Like all of that money comes from our pocket, totally taxed, and we give it to people who are in our own congregation, and sometimes we do give it to people who are not in our congregation. Sometimes we give it to organizations who may need help. So first of all, we may see an organization that may be trying to do something, spreading the gospel, and then we'll all come up with we all pitch in, and then we'll donate to that particular organization or that particular group or person or whoever, and that's how we operate. So even right now, since we're not able to meet, we are still able to, we're still okay because we meet in, each other's homes. You see what I'm saying? So, but when you have a building, and especially if you're not a 501c3 church, then you're really in big trouble because now you have to pay, taxes on everything that you're bringing in. So all of that stuff that you got coming in for the church, and I don't know how churches who don't operate as a 501c3, I mean, are they for-profit businesses or something like that? I see Edward Sanders. He says basically, if you have a 501c3, you are being ran by the government in exchange for money. Right? Exactly. You know, exactly. Um, and that's basically what it is. I mean, the government basically owns you. They're basically telling you what you can and can't do, and you just have to follow that, or they're going to start taxing you. So I think that when you have churches that are non 501c3 and they're a pretty nice size, I wonder how does that work? I wonder, is that an LLC or what? But if it is, then I mean, it's this will be a really, really bad time for churches like that. Because see, the thing is nowadays the churches are let me see. Timothy says that the 501, hold on, let me go back. He said they can only take away your 501c3 if you violate the tax rules, i.e. personal use, but they cannot intervene in any doctrinal teachings. That is a violation of the First Amendment. I may try to find that try to find that article that I did read that I read about and I don't know, like I said, I don't know if this was something that was actually passed, but I remember that this was something that was, it wasn't an article, something that was proposed. And Timothy says the government cannot infringe upon your First Amendment. And I actually want to get into that as well. I'm probably going to segue into that because right now there is a lot of Christians who are using, and this is not a knock towards, you, Timothy. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about, there have been other Christians that I've seen who have been going through this, and they are just basically telling their members, hey, we're still going to meet. We don't really care what the government says. We don't really care, what they do, but we're still going to meet because, we have our constitutional rights and, all of these things. First of all, who's giving you those constitutional rights? The person who are giving you the constitutional rights is the government. Okay, now me personally, I am not an anti-government person, but I don't trust the government. I'm not going to leave my life in the hands of the government at all, because our government has been proven to not be trustworthy. And a lot of people forget that there is a thing called the Patriot Act, which was signed in after 9/11, to where it basically, if the government suspects you of being a terrorist, they basically strip you of all your constitutional rights. That means that they can come into your house, perform illegal searches and seizures, and they can lock you up indefinitely, and they don't have to give you a trial until they figure out if they want to let you go or not. And whatever they take from your home, whether it's been, computers or whatever, they can keep that indefinitely and they don't have to give that back. And I've heard stories about the Patriot Act being used in certain instances where the government was able to just come in and just take whatever they want and lock people up. People were locked up for like 6 months to a year, all of that type of crazy stuff. But this is our same government. So, like right now, I'm starting to see a lot of Christians. They are out there and they're talking about a guy like Rodney Howard-Browne, which, to be honest, I've never heard of this guy until this week. But I know that there have been people who are talking about him now, saying that he is one of those Pentecostal charismatic type guys, and his theology is off. But you now have a lot of people who is lumping him in with Reformed Christians or with more Orthodox Christians, and saying that, oh, well, now he's a pastor that is, defying the government, and it's almost like this guy's like somewhat of a hero now because he got arrested for holding church service. But but what's so crazy is that I also read another article today is that he's decided to cancel his church services. So it's like you did all of that, got arrested, and put people at risk for the virus in order to just cancel the services anyway. So it's just like, what was that all for? Number one, the gospel didn't go out. I mean, no Christian, was able to take that example and find anything of what you're doing in the Bible. So it's just like none of that pointed back to Christ. Everything that we do as Christians must point back to Christ. You see what I'm saying? So this is why I hate the whole, government rights argument, because if someone does something to us as Christians and we retaliate or we rebel, we're supposed to be able to go back to Scripture and say, this is why we're doing this based on Scripture. Now, I don't have a problem with us not meeting. And like I said in one of my other videos, I don't have a problem with not meeting right now because of this pandemic. And I don't, and I'm not one of those guys to go around and be like, well, I don't believe that, this is as serious as it is. Hey, listen, we came together as a church, my church group, and we all sat down and we talked about it. And we said, hey, some people said, I think we should still meet despite that. Some people said, no, I don't think that, we should meet. I think that we should go ahead and just stay home, ride this thing out. And me, I was just kind of in the middle, but I was just like, if the law is telling us to just kind of hold off right now, then that's what I'm going to do. We are supposed to submit to authority. The Bible tells us to submit to authority. And I think it's in the book of Romans. I can't remember what passage, but we are supposed to submit ourselves to authority. Now, hypothetically speaking, let's say if the government, after all of this is up, they say that, okay, well, we think that Christians should not be able to meet if there's 10 or more people in their congregation, then that's when we say, okay, well, forget that. No, we're still going to meet. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what laws you drum up. We're under Christ. Christ tells us to come together in fellowship, then that's what we're going to do. Now, in a situation like this, I understand. Okay, maybe we, for the sake of others, maybe we should be more mindful of that. Because like I said, in my church, my particular church, we do have people who have health issues. You see what I'm saying? They have, we have a couple of people who have autoimmune deficiencies. You see what I'm saying? So it's like a common cold can send them to the emergency room. So it's it's that serious. So if a person turns around and who has this deficiency and they catch the coronavirus, no telling what will happen. That'll probably, wipe them out. So for the sake of our church, we just decided to kind of hold off our services. Now, in that regard, I totally agree. But you just have some people out here who just want to be anti-government. And to be honest, this is the wrong time to try to exercise your so-called government rights, to sit back and try to defy the law. And it just seems like that everybody is waiting. And I mean, I don't know what it is about this cultures right now, but everybody wants to find a way to be a victim of some sort. And I'm not saying that everyone is like that or every Christian is like that. But you have some people out there who they're waiting for a time like this for the government to say that you can't do something, and they're trying to just rebel against the government. Right now is not the time to do that, because it's nothing to rebel against. And if what you're doing is not leading people to Christ, then what is the point? By this guy getting arrested, how is that leading anyone to Christ? I don't see Christ in that. You know what he brought up? He brought up his constitutional right. So what? Don't you know that the Constitution don't mean anything to the government? That means nothing. They're the one giving you these rights. And if they decide that they wanted to come to your house right now and just lock you away and just say, hey, we're just going to come. If they came in right now and decided to just snatch me or put me in cuffs and just haul me off and not tell anyone where I'm going, who is going to make sure that I get released? Who can you go to above the government and say, hey, this is, this is, something that's something that's unconstitutional happening to Alton, and we demand for him to be released, and then that person over the government will be able to step in and have me released. You can't. The buck stops with the government when you're talking about your constitutional rights. It stops with them. So don't sit back and depend on them saying that, oh, well, I got my constitutional rights. That don't mean anything to them. It don't. All you got to do is just watch watch what's been going on with these past presidential elections. A lot of people forget about the Hillary Clinton thing back in 2016 with the whole email stuff. How many of us will actually be sitting out here right now talking to you guys if we had done the same exact thing that Hillary Clinton done? None of us. We probably would they probably would execute us if we did the same thing that Hillary done. All of the Benghazi stuff, remember that? Remember what happened? So the government is not anything that we need to be putting our faith and trust in. Christ is the only one that we need to be focusing on. So if you're going to be pulling stunts like this pastor, and I call it a stunt because he turned around and did the same exact thing that he was against. He said that he wanted to have church service and he was going to defy the government. They turned around and locked his butt up. Now he's saying, oh, well, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel church services. So you did all of that to do what? And God was not glorified in any of that. So you basically wasted your time. You see what I'm saying? What is supposed to be happening now is that people are supposed to be looking at us right now and saying, you know what? Why this whole planet is in an uproar. Let's look at those Christians. Look at the way that they're handling this. They're calm, they're cool, collected. They're still praising and worshiping the Lord. It's just another day for them. They're not out here panicking and, they're not out here, creating problems and causing a stir. But when you got guys like this, he represents what society thinks Christianity is. And when they look at him, they don't look at us. They don't look at us who don't agree with this guy's theology. They lump all of us in together. They say, oh, this is what Christians do. This is everything that Christians do. And I'm going to pull up this article that was, let me see. Excuse me. It's by the New York Times. And I mean, I gotta read this like live because like some of you guys have probably already heard about this. Let me see. Okay. The New York Times. Hold on, let me see. Because the New York Times blames Christians. Now, I'm not making this up. The New York Times is blaming Christians for the coronavirus. I'm not playing. I'm trying to see if I can. I want to find the actual. I want to find the actual article that came from the New York Times. Now, although it's an op-ed, and I'm sorry I'm not prepared, guys. I came straight from home, and I had to. I think I just found it. Okay, here we go. I came straight from home, and I had to jump on this live stream because I have another live stream that I'm going to be doing on a channel called oh man, I just forgot it. Debate Talk for You. Debate the number 4 talk debate talk the number 4 and the letter U. So you guys check that out. I'm going to be going live with them in 30 minutes. So it is going to be at 8 p.m. Now this is an opinion, okay? This is an opinion piece. This is not like some real news or whatever, but I want you guys to pay attention, okay? Although this is an opinion piece, this is the New York Times. The New York Times is a trusted piece of news source, and millions of people read the New York Times. So the fact that this is published in the New York Times doesn't mean that this is somehow an accident. I mean, this is a well-organized news organization, if that's what you want to call it. Okay, now if we're going to read the title, okay? This is from a lady named Catherine Stewart. It says, the religious right's hostility to science is crippling our coronavirus response. So, first of all, they're already trying to let you know that, you know, we as Christians are anti-science. That's what they're trying to that's what they're trying to portray. Okay. Now remember, they're saying the religious rights. Now, you see how they frame religious? They're not talking about Buddhism, Hinduism. They're not even talking about Islam. Guess what they're only talking about? They're only talking about Christians. So we're going to read about this. Trump's response to the pandemic has been haunted by the science denialism of his ultra-conservative religious allies. Donald Trump rose to power with the determined assistance of a movement that denies science. That's supposed to be us. We're supposed to be denying science, right? Now, although all of the early scientific pioneers were not atheists, and a lot of them were Christian, and they believe in God. For example, guys like Sir Isaac Newton. But we're just going to move on for now. Bash his government and prioritize loyalty over professional expertise. In the current crisis, we are all reaping what that movement has sown. That is crazy. At least since the 19th century, when the pro-slavery theologian Robert Louis Dabney attacked the physical sciences as theories of unbelief, hostility to science has characterized the more extreme forms of religious nationalism in the United States. So now they're trying to throw slavery into this. They're trying to basically say that you know, it's somehow Christians' fault that slavery happened, despite that when you look at or when you read history, you know, and you read about the slave trade and all of this stuff here, you rarely hear about the Christian abolitionists who fought for the freedom of slaves. You see what I'm saying? So how do you have Christians enslaving black people, but then you got another group of Christians that are fighting for the freedom of slaves that were successful? You see what I'm saying? Today, the hardcore of climate deniers, that's us too, right? Remember, we don't believe in climate change, so there's something wrong with us. We're anti-science if we don't believe in climate change. It's concentrated among people who identify as religiously conservative Republicans. Again, they're not. They keep using the term religious, but they're not talking about any other religion. They're talking about Christians or so-called Christians, in this piece. And some leaders of the Christian nationalist movement, like those allied with Cornwall Alliance for the Stewardship of Creation, which has denounced environmental science as a cult of the green dragon, casts environmentalism as an alternative and false theology. They're talking about the Green New Deal. Nobody agrees with the Green New Deal. There's even a lot of Democrats who don't agree with the Green New Deal. There's even scientists, real scientists. I forgot the guy's name, but he was the one who started the Weather Channel. You know, this guy has like a fancy degree in like weather studies or something like that, or meteorology. And he got on CNN Live, and you guys can watch this video for yourself. You know, if you're on YouTube, but he got on CNN Live and says that climate change is not real. He was like, it's not. He says, I'm a scientist, and I'm telling you that it's not real. And CNN, I mean, they just brushed that guy off to the side. This denial of science and critical thinking among religious ultra-conservatives now haunts the American response to the coronavirus. On March 15th, Guillermo Maldonado, who calls himself an apostle and hosted Mr. Trump earlier this year at a campaign event at his Miami megachurch, urged his congregants to show up for worship services in person. Do you believe God will bring his people to his house to be contagious with the virus? Of course not, he said. Now, first of all, I don't even know who this guy is, but for somehow he speaks for all Christians, right? Now, all of a sudden, he speaks for all Christians, and Donald Trump speaks for all Christians. Rodney Howard-Browne, this is the same guy we was just talking about, right? Rodney Howard-Browne of the River at Tampa Bay Church in Florida mocked people concerned about the diseases as pansies and insisted we will only shutter the doors to his packed church when the rapture is taking place. Now, just as I said, and this is why I believe that when you got guys like Rodney Howard-Browne who are doing these things, they paint all of us, anyone who identifies as Christian, they paint all of us with the same brush, and they put the same target on all of our backs because you got people like Rodney Howard-Browne who does these things. And that's why I don't believe us as Christians, we should be sitting back praising or heralding, you know, a guy like this guy, you know, because there are a lot of us who are responsible, you know, who don't hold to these beliefs. But, you know, they don't care. They don't care about that, you know, us. We don't hold to these charismatic values. You see what I'm saying? These people with the naming and claiming, and you know, they bopping people on the head talking about some "you are healed" and all of this stuff here, and you know, all of this. You know, God told me and showed me this prophetic stuff, and you know, a lot of us, we don't believe in that stuff, but they don't care. They lump us all in the same. They lump us all together. In a sermon that was live streamed on Facebook, Tony Spell, pastor in Louisiana, this is another guy who was arrested too, said we are also going to pass out anointed handkerchiefs to people who may have a fear, who may have a sickness, and we believe that when those anointed handkerchiefs go out, that healing virtue is going to go out, it's going to go on them as well. I mean, first of all, there's no scripture being used, okay? But somehow they'll scrape the bottom of the barrel, and this is what a lot of unbelievers do. They love to scrape the bottom of the barrel and put that in the forefront and say, well, this is what Christians believe in, and this is who they are. I'm gonna try to go ahead and hurry up, guys, because I only got 20 minutes to hop on this this other live stream. It's called Debate Talk for You. Debate Talk for You, and I'll be on in like 20 minutes. And we're going to be talking about, discuss some things with Hebrew Israelites. By all accounts, President Trump's tendency to trust his gut over the expertise on issues like vaccines and climate change does not come from any deep-seated religious conviction, but he is perfectly in tune with the religious nationalists who form the core of his base. Now, what they're saying is that everyone who's a Christian supports Donald Trump. That's not true. I know a lot of people who don't support Donald Trump. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of people who are hardcore religious Trump supporters. There's some people who don't support him at all. And there's people in the middle like me who's just like, hey, as long as he does his job, I mean, that's all I really need him for. You know what I'm saying? If he's just out doing his job, hey, listen, the only thing I can do is pray that he repents of all of his sins and find the Lord Jesus Christ before he dies. But other than that, I don't really get wrapped up too much in the politics and what's going on. I make my comments from here, here and there, but that's about it. In his daily briefings from the White House, Mr. Trump actively disdains and contradicts the messages coming from his own experts and touts as yet unproven cures. First of all, if you watch, because I've watched some of these briefings that he's had about this virus, and he's had some of the best experts. He's even had the Surgeon General talking about this. But for some reason, these people are not experts because they're with Trump, and these are supposed to be. And Trump is basically listening to people like Rodney Howard-Browne and this other guy with anointing handkerchiefs. So, according to them, they're trying to say that these are the people that Trump is listening to. Us crazy Christians walking around with anointed handkerchiefs, passing them out to people, saying that if you have these magic handkerchiefs, you're going to be saved. But it's all the thing is that they're not trying to attack Trump. That's what I want you guys to understand. They're trying to attack Christians. You see what I'm saying? So they're trying to use this as a way to attack us. Not every pastor is behaving recklessly, of course, and not every church goer in these uncertain times is showing up for services out of disregard for the scientific evidence. Far from it. Yet, none of the benign uses of religion in this time of crisis have anything to do with Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump's expressed hope that the country would be opened up and just raring to go by Easter. He could, of course, have said by mid-April, but Mr. Trump did not invoke Easter by accident, as many of his evangelical allies were pleased by his vision of packed churches all over the country. That's what it's about. Trump mentioned Easter and basically just saying that was a timeline. So instead of, instead of them just basically listening to the timeline and saying that, okay, hopefully by mid-April this will be done, they don't like the fact that he said Easter, because they know that Easter, which, some people we call Resurrection Sunday, they don't like the fact that a lot of, like, if Trump basically says that Easter is the day that we can, kind of come from lockdown and quarantine, we can go back to churches, they're, in my opinion, is afraid that people's faith is going to skyrocket. People are probably going to start going to church, and because a lot of people always show up for Easter. So I believe that they're afraid that people would show up, and we already know what the hot topic is going to be that Sunday if people were to start showing up for church. It's going to be about the coronavirus, how it was handled, and how God brought us through it. Which, in some cases, if the gospel is preached correctly, all of the unbelievers that show up for Easter anyway on Easter Sunday, they may be able to hear the gospel. So, that's why I honestly believe that now I think they've extended the lockdown period to the end of April. You see what I'm saying? Because I believe that Trump and his administration probably had that pressure of not opening the country back up on Easter or around that time, that if he was to do that, I guess people will kind of be like, oh, he's showing religious favoritism and all of this stuff here. So I believe that that's why he extended it. But that's just my opinion. Let me see. There's a lot more to read here. Let's see if we can read a little bit more. I think it will be a beautiful time, the president said. Religious nationalism has brought American politics to the conviction that our political differences are a battle between absolute evil and absolute good. I mean, that's what, I mean, not when it comes to politics, but when it comes to what we believe, there's absolute evil and then there's absolute good. And that's why we preach the gospel, to let people know what the standard of absolute good is. When you're engaged in the struggle between the party of life, pro-life, right? That's what they're trying to label us, quotations, the party of life, and the party of death, and these are the pro-choicers, as some religious nationalists now frame our political divisions. You don't need to worry about crafting careful policy based on expert political correctness. Based on expert opinion and analysis. Only a heroic leader, free from the scruples of political correctness, can save the righteous from the damned. Fealty to the cause is everything. Fidelity to the facts means nothing. The facts of what? Murdering children? That's what you do. Perhaps this is why many Christian nationalist leaders now you see how they went from the term religious and now they're just coming out and saying Christian. Perhaps this is why many Christian nationalist leaders greeted the news of the coronavirus as an insult to their chosen leader. Let me see. In an interview on March 13th, Fox and Friends, Jerry Falwell Jr., the president of Liberty University, called the response to the coronavirus hype and overreacting. Impeachment didn't work, and the Mueller report didn't work, and Article 25 didn't work. So maybe now this is their next their next attempt to get to Trump. Now I do want to. I think I'm just going to go ahead and stop there. If you guys want to read this, this is the title: "The Religious Rights Hostility to Science Crippling Our Coronavirus." And it's funny that the guy mentioned the whole thing about the Mueller report and all of that stuff. Now, the reason why something like that would have been brought up is because when this whole thing popped off with the whole coronavirus thing, and they were trying to get the $2 trillion in stimulus money, the Democrats wanted to try to get a lot of that money, try to get a big chunk of it to try to go towards their special interests. Like, for instance, they wanted some of that $2 million, that $2 trillion to go towards Planned Parenthood. For what? Kennedy Center of the Arts or something like that. All of this stuff that they were proposing that they wanted to be budgeted for this coronavirus epidemic, which is supposed to be helping the American people get back on their feet. They wanted a lot of this money and stuff to go towards stuff that had nothing to do with the virus. Some of these places won't even be affected by the virus, like Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is still open. I mean, we got missionaries from our church personally that are going out and standing in front of these Planned Parenthood facilities. And if you guys can pray for these missionaries. And a couple of people from our church have already turned away a few women. You see what I'm saying? There's a few women who came to Christ right then and there, and they decided to keep their babies. And I just thank the Lord for them, and I just thank the Lord for our missionaries who go out and who fight that battle. But why are we giving Planned Parenthood more money to kill babies and to provide abortions to women when they're not even being affected at all? Like how does that even work? So therefore, when they're talking about these ultra conservative, right wing Christians and all of that. I'm gonna tell you like this: there's a lot of Christians who are not conservative, ultra right wing. You looking at one of them, and to be honest, there's a lot of these people who call themselves Christians and they're like ultra conservative and all of that. I can't stand those people. There's a lot of those people who consider themselves that, and I'm just like, dude, I just like don't like I don't even like being around people like that. Now, if something is right, then if I agree with you on certain things, if something is right, then yeah, I'll agree with you on it. But if it's wrong, then I'm gonna call it out, just like I'll call it out with anyone else. You see what I'm saying? But the reason why I wanted to read that article is because I wanted to let you guys know that, and you guys probably already see it anyway. None of us are dumb, but you can see how they're trying to paint this. So it's like they're already putting it out there that the problem is with the Christians. So therefore, the reason why these people are dying from the coronavirus is because of the president's response to the coronavirus, which they believe is not good enough. And the reason why he's responding is because of the Christians that is in his ear. And I've already heard, some rumors about that once they get this vaccine, that this might be something that's mandatory. So they're already I read an article, another article, and I can't remember where it was, but they're already starting to blame Christians and saying that, oh, it's these anti-vaxxers. It's the reason why this thing is out of control. Well, here's the thing. Everyone's being affected by this, whether you have a vaccine or not. So if you are a vaxxer versus an anti-vaxxer and you still get the virus anyway, how does an anti-vaxxer help you get a virus faster than someone who doesn't have the vaccine? If you have the vaccine, you should be protected. The only person that we should be worried about is the person who don't have the vaccine. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't make sense. But when Jesus said that you will be hated for my name, this is exactly what he meant. But this is prime example right here. And like I said, this is the New York Times. This is not some backyard, hole in the wall newspaper. This is the New York Times, who's been around for over 100 years. And for someone to be able to sign off and say, hey, go ahead and post this story on the internet. I mean, to me, that's scary. That is very scary. But in these times, man, this is why we need to continue to just strengthen our faith and rejoice. Rejoice that it's not up to people like the New York Times. Heck, it's not even up to the president or the government who decides what happens to us. It's up to the Lord. The Lord is the one who is going to determine who lives and who dies from this pandemic, who suffers or who is okay. That is the Lord. The Lord is sovereign, all of that. Like this whole coronavirus thing going on and this shutdown, none of this stuff is surprising the Lord. He's not going to heaven like, oh, I wonder how the Christians are going to get out of this one. It's not what he's doing. He is sovereign over all. So that's why I say, we have to be careful with our response to this. We can't be running around here trying to be rebels and, trying to be anti-government. One prime example that we can look at is when the Pharisees had approached Jesus and they asked him, they said, hey, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or is it not? Because you got to think, and I was explaining this to my kids the other day, telling them that, at this time, we don't need to be rebels. We don't need to be anti-government and all of that stuff. But I gave them this example. And Jesus, what did he do? He asked the Pharisees, it says, let me see one of those coins. And he held it up. And he says, whose image is on this? And it said Caesar's. He says, you render to Caesar what is Caesar, but you give to God what is God's. You know what I'm saying? Basically letting them know already, hey, listen, if this is what Caesar is doing, because first of all, God is the one that's in control. Your image, God's image is on you. You see what I'm saying? So Caesar want his money, give Caesar his money. Give him his money. Do what you got to do to give him that. But at the same time, your God's image is on you. So you need to submit yourself to God. You submit to God. You don't submit to Caesar. But you give Caesar what is his. And right now we live in America. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to be honest with you. I really thank the Lord for me being here in America. Because I've seen what it's like to live in some of these other countries. And I know that this is a time where a lot of people are anti-American and all of that. I'm not some big, big patriot nationalist or anything like that. I mean, I do love the country that I'm in. I do thank the Lord for placing me here at this time in this moment in life. But at the same time, he is still the one that I submit to, because when he returns, there ain't going to be no such thing as an America. We're not going to be walking around here, comparing countries and seeing who's the best and, what works, socialism or capitalism. None of that stuff is going to matter. But anyway, guys, I only got a few minutes left. I want to thank all of you guys, for being in the chat once again. And I'm sorry I couldn't really address a lot, what you guys were saying in the chat, because I really had to try to get through this as quick as possible so I can get ready to get on this live stream. And I think I've probably already gotten a couple of emails. So I'm going to open some things up here. But listen, just like I said earlier, you guys, I'm going to be going on a live stream with Debate Talk for You. And I'm getting ready to go on live with them. We're gonna have a discussion. So if you guys, want to be a part of that discussion, you guys run on over to that channel, Debate Talk for You, and I will see you guys. Oh, you say you want the link? Hold on one second. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Give me a second. 1 second, guys. 1 second. Let me see. Hold up. I gotta log out of this. Okay. Just give me a second. Un segundo. Let me go to my. Trying to see if he sent me the link. No, I don't have the link yet. Oh, actually, it's the wrong one. Wrong account. Because I do want to send you guys that link so we can all get in there and, just have a discussion, and you guys can hold up. Just 1 second. I'm just checking my Facebook because that's where they messaged me from. Here we go. I want to see if he's going to send me the link. Like I said, I want to thank you guys, seriously for coming into the chat. But as soon as I get this link, I will post it. I don't see where he has emailed me yet. Excuse me. But let me let me go to their YouTube channel. Let me see. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this link out here in the in the description, and you guys can go ahead, check it out. Hold up. Oh, here we go. All right, so you guys go ahead, hit that link. We're supposed to be going live in a minute, so they might be a little behind, because it looks like that they're a little behind. Okay, all right. So I am getting ready to. Okay, so I'm getting ready to get on live with them, and I'm going to close this out. And you guys, make sure you head over there and check out the discussion that we're going to have over there. All right, thank you guys. Have a blessed day, and you guys be safe.